Hello, Mr. and Miss America and all the ships at sea. It's your man, Tim Roberts, 820. The ugliest man in social media. Okay, so today is going to be, I would say probably a downer of a video, but there is a positive side to it. There is a good outcome, but it's going to be a little bit depressing, going to be a little down, going to be talking some really dark issues. Because I watched a video of uh Ashley Judd, who was talking about her mom who just committed suicide recently. Um which I didn't know that her mother, Naomi Judd, had depression and how bad it was. It was apparently pretty bad. And she revealed that she actually shot herself with a gun, which is wow. I really, you hear that and it's like, wow. If I and Ashley Judd, you remember seeing her at the that woman's rally, 5, 6 years ago, and screaming and yelling and just like calling herself a nasty woman and all that stuff, and then you see her so kind of broken down and just a broken person talking about her mother who she just lost. It was I saw her in a totally different way, and I feel bad for her. I really do. I feel really bad for her. I mean, I just lost my dad a couple months ago, and it's it just comes in waves. Your grief isn't just going to go away. It's not just going to poof, bye, see you later. It's, I'll be driving around and I'll think of something and boom, I'll start to cry. I'll thinking about dad. I mean, I go to his grave like once a week. It's right down the road from my house. It's pretty close to me, and I stop in there, once a week. And it's hard for me to grasp that my dad is gone. Even though he had a long life, he was 85 years old, and he lived a long time. I really can't complain. We had him for a long time, so but still, be that as it may, he's gone. He's not gonna be with us any longer, and I wish he was, but he's not. So now you're probably wondering, well, what's this have to do with you, Tim? Well, I personally I have depression, and the way my depression manifests itself these days is a lot different than it did years ago. Starting in high school is when my depression started, and that's when the dark suicidal thoughts came, and that's where they started back in high school. I always felt ugly. I never was a good looking guy. You know, had acne. You could see the acne scars I have on my face. Um, but it wasn't so bad that it totally covered my face. It was like spotty. But I didn't treat it properly. I didn't really take care of myself. I guess I don't know. I just kind of let it go, and it caused a lot of scarring and whatnot. But so I always felt ugly. I always felt less than. That's why I say the ugliest man in social media, because that's I believe I am. I'm not attractive, and I know that. I know I'm not attractive. I know I don't look good. I'm not going to be on the cover of People Magazine, Sexiest Man Alive. That's not going to happen. Why would it? That's for sexy men. That's for attractive men. I'm not that. I'm not attractive. So for many, many, many years, for decades, I had these dark suicidal thoughts, and they plagued me all the time. It was there. It was always there for me. And I told a friend a couple of years ago, it was the best friend I ever had. And she says, that's kind of the wrong choice of words. I'm like, well, it was always there for me. It was always there. It was a trusted companion, because I used to do everything alone. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. In high school, I had a few, but after high school, we kind of split apart. And, I would go to concerts myself. I would go out to dinner myself. Always went to the movies myself because I didn't really have anybody to go with, until I dated somebody or, got married, which I did a couple years ago. And so I didn't have a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of friends. I have a handful of friends, just a very small group of friends. And those things kind of plague on you. They weigh on you, and they make you feel even worse than what you're already feeling. You're already feeling down and depressed and like you're not worth it, and you don't count, And then when you don't have any friends, you don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of or talk to about it. It's like, well, now what do you do? Where do you go then? So excuse me. So these thoughts were there for many, many, many years, and my family and friends, they have no idea. They have no idea how close and how many times they came to losing me. They just don't know. They don't know. I never really revealed this to many people, even after, I had victory over it, and that took a long, long time. And I'll tell you how it happened. August 2017. I used to read this blog called boldanddetermined.com. I don't think it's in existence any longer. I'm pretty sure it's all gone. I downloaded everything the guy ever wrote, whatever he penned. I got it all on a zip drive. And in August 2017, I read an article that he wrote. I don't know if it was that month he wrote it for that month or I don't know when he wrote it, but I read it in August 2017, and it was called Depression and Drug Addiction. Now, let me say this. If you ever find this article, which you probably won't, I could probably give it to you, but it would take a while to do. It's not going to be what you think it is. He has a very in-your-face, smash-mouth type approach to things, or he did at that time, and he was pure and blunt and just, this is how I feel. This is because he didn't have those issues. He didn't have depression. He didn't have drug addiction. All right. He didn't deal with the suicidal thoughts that I was dealing with. He didn't understand that. And I never understood depression until it developed with me. And I had depression, but I didn't even realize it until about my mid to late 20s. I didn't even realize that I had depression. And depression is not, oh, I feel sad. That's not depression. Depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain. All right. And some people can't get off the couch. They can't get out of bed. And I've been like that sometimes recently. I got suspended from my job and been doing a lot of lounging around my house and just laying in bed. I know I shouldn't be, but that's kind of the way it's manifested itself with me these days. But years ago, I'd go right for that suicide. I'd go right for that those thoughts would come right in there, and I'd be planning it all out, and But I read this article, and what he was saying was, and the guy. Oh, by the way, the guy's name his pen name was Victor Pride. That wasn't his real name. That's his pen name. Pen name being that's the name he used to write this blog. Was Victor Pride, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that you're not going to be able to find any of those articles or anything online or anything like that. He's I don't know where he is now. I have no idea, but But he basically said in this article, if you have depression and drug addiction, you're a loser. That's who you are. You're a loser. If you can't, it's like, what do you mean you're depressed? I mean, are you feeling sad? Or you mean drug addiction? Well, then why did you do drugs in the first place? Why did you drink alcohol in the first place? Now, I am in agreement with that in terms of if you have the genetic code to become a drug addict or an alcoholic, but you never pick up any drugs and do drugs, or never drink any alcohol, then you'll never trigger that gene in your body to go down that road of alcoholism or drug dependency or drug addiction. If you stay away from drugs and alcohol, then you won't trigger that. That's what I believe. And I don't think there's any doctor or geneticist that would argue with that. Now, yes, if you start to drink and do drugs, yes, you're going to become dependent. You're going to become an alcoholic. I mean, And that was in my family too, on both sides of my family. So I had to be very careful about alcohol and stuff like that. I had a grandfather who was, he died very young. I was 4 or 5 years old when he died. He smoked and he drank and he died very, very young. He was like in his early 50s, I believe. And my brother never even got to meet him because my brother wasn't born until another 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later. So, um, but I understood what Victor Pride was saying because he was talking about being responsible, taking responsibility for your depression, for your drug dependency, for your drug addiction. It's your responsibility. It's yours. It belongs to you. You got to deal with it. Someone else can't deal with it. Somebody else can't deal with your drug addiction. Someone else can't deal with your alcoholism or your depression. You have to. You have to own it. And then you got to figure out a way how to deal with it, how to get through it, how to abide with it or conquer it or beat it. And so I understood that. I got where he was coming from with that. I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. It did make a lot of sense to me. And so I took that information and started to reprocess my depression in my brain differently, and the whole suicidal thoughts thing differently in my head. I changed, but I didn't really notice anything different. It wasn't like I was like, oh well, I'm a new guy, walking around. I didn't. It wasn't like that. But here's how I realized I had changed. About a month later, I hadn't seen my wife in I don't know, a month, maybe 2 months. I mean, it was, my marriage was a total disaster, and she came home to get her mail, and I had written her a letter, apologizing for the things that I had done. I took full responsibility for us growing apart and whatnot, and I put it into her mail, and then I hadn't heard from her for weeks and weeks. I'm like, it was like September, and so I texted her. I said, "Did you get my letter?" She goes, "Yeah." And I knew right then and there that it. I mean, I knew my marriage was over, but when she was like, had that that attitude of like, yeah, so I got it, yeah, whatever. I said, well, what do you think? She goes, oh, you want a divorce? Get a divorce. I'm like, okay. Now, normally that would trigger those dark suicidal thoughts, and they would come storming in. And I sat there as I'm reading the text, and I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, where are those thoughts? Why are those thoughts coming? And that's when I realized that I had beaten the suicidal thoughts. This went on for 30 years, guys. 30 years I had this issue. Starting in high school. If something went wrong, boom, I was planning my death. I said, I'm going to go here. I'm going to do it here. Boom, done. That's it. And it happened it happened so many times. Like I said, my family and friends had no idea how close and how many times they came to losing me. They have no idea. Excuse me. So I realized something. I'm like, wow, I beat those thoughts. I beat suicide. Now my life didn't change much. I didn't have any more friends. I didn't have a great job. My life wasn't going so much better. It's just that part of my life, that thing in my head that kept coming, those dark, bad, suicidal thoughts were gone. They're gone. And I beat them. I beat them. I assumed responsibility for my depression. I assumed responsibility for those things in my life, and those suicidal thoughts. They're mine. My depression is mine. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to me. And I had victory over them. And I some people, and I, there's a guy I watch on YouTube. He has a site. His YouTube page is called Can-Am Missing Project. His name is Dave Paulides. And he deals a lot with like missing people and things like that in our national parks and wildernesses and whatnot. And even around the world, he's even done some. He's talked about people that have disappeared around the world, and his son committed suicide about a year or so ago, and he got right back on the air again. He got right back on doing his thing, and because his son helped him build his page and did a couple movies together, documentaries, and and when it happened, I was just like, what's this guy doing? How's this guy doing this? And my dad, dying a couple months ago, you would think, oh, there's those thoughts. No, those thoughts don't come. They don't come any longer. They don't bother. They try to knock on my door. Sorry, go away. You have no residence here. You have no address here. You don't live here any longer. Your stuff is gone. You can't come in this. You can't come in this heart and this mind, this soul any longer. You're not welcome. Because I've had some things happen to me that have been kind of really negative and would really trigger those things. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going down that road any longer. I had victory over it. I have victory over it. That victory is mine. That victory is mine. And I'm not saying I'm better than other people. I'm not saying that, oh, I'm so special. No, I'm just saying what happened with me in my life. And maybe other people weren't as strong as me. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm a stronger person than other people. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying I had an issue with this. I had an issue with suicidal thoughts for 30 plus years. 30 plus years. I hated myself. I hated looking in the mirror. I hated what I saw looking in that mirror. And I still to this day, I'm not, 100% happy with it, but I'm working on it. I'm working on rebuilding my body. I'm working on rebuilding my life, and it's not easy when you're 50 plus years old. It's just not easy. When you develop a lot of bad habits and a lot of bad things going on, you kind of get into that funk, you get into that rut, and it's like, you know what a rut is? I'll tell you what a rut is. A rut is a coffin with the ends kicked out. That's a rut. So when you get into a rut, it's hard to get out, So, but I've got victory over it, thank God, and it doesn't. Those thoughts do not come any longer. And when I mean those thoughts, they came on strong, really, really strong. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I planned my own death. And I would get down to the point where I was thinking about my funeral, and I was thinking about all my relatives and handful of friends that would come be crying over my casket. And that usually stopped me, because I would be like, wow, I don't want to do that to them. I don't want to hurt these people. Because when you die, yeah, your pain might be over, but you know what? There's going to be pain for somebody else. Like I saw in Ashley Judd's face and heard in her voice. I mean, she could barely do the interview. She could barely do it, but she got through it. She's like the spokesperson for the family or whatever. And she's like, well, I'm going to do it. I got to do it. And she's a broken woman. And I feel bad for her, I mean, it sucks to lose a parent, but it sucks to lose a parent in that way. Someone that you love and care about, when they take their own life, and you're like, wait, what? You can't do that. That's not, no. And that's hard. That's a really hard thing to deal with. I've never had it happen to myself personally, and I hope I never do. But, that's one of the things that stopped me was, I don't want to cause my family pain. I don't want to do that. I want to live a long, healthy life as long as I can, and when I finally go, they'll mourn me, naturally and the way they should be, after a long life. So, again, I don't know if this is going to help anybody or hurt anybody, or if someone's going to be offended or upset. I don't mean to do any of that. I'm just telling you my story of these dark thoughts that I had in my life, and they were really bad. It really, really affected me. And like I said, it was the best friend I ever had. It really, I hate to say it, but it was always there for me. It was always there for me, more than other friends, more than other people that I knew. And but I'm glad that friend is gone. That friend is gone. They're no longer allowed in my life. They no longer can come into my home. They can no longer come into my mind, my heart, my soul. Those dark, negative, suicidal thoughts are no longer a problem for me or an issue for me, and will never be allowed in my life ever again. So I hope that helps somebody. I hope someone hears this and hears help. It gets help if they need it. Reach out to me if you want to talk to me. I'll give you, impart any knowledge that you need or want, that I can. Because I know I've been there. Believe me, I've been there. I've hated myself for decades. Hated myself for decades, and it's not easy to stop hating yourself, But every day I try, every day I keep fighting. Every day I keep fighting. So that's all I got for today, folks. God bless you. Take care.